Hi, Diane.
How are you?
I'm great.
I am so excited to be doing our first totally live workshop here. This is very exciting across 3 different platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Twitter.
Yeah, 3 platforms on Tuesday.
Tuesday. I was so excited at 2:00 at 2:22 today. Yeah, it's a wonderful Tuesday.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of people joining in from across the country. Actually, this time we're gone national, and so we're just going to give it about 30 seconds to allow some people from LinkedIn and from Twitter and Facebook to join us, and then we will get going.
Excellent.
Yeah. For those watching, I didn't do so well with the arrowroot background, so I blended right in.
The backgrounds are nice, but it does create this weird fog around you. Makes you
Yes,
like a ghost.
Well, that's great. So, should we get going?
Why don't we give it another minute? One more minute, and we'll get some people on here.
Our producer is telling us to go ahead. So I think we're going to get started. So I hate to penalize people who are on time. So I'm going to put our presentation up. There we go. So I want to welcome everyone to our countdown to retirement. I'm sure many of you have heard the term the Great Resignation. And I can tell you that Dan and I here in our office have felt it because people are pounding on our doors saying, how do I retire? How do I get out of here? So we thought we'd come up with a workshop to help you do it. Doesn't matter if you're 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, or even 10 years away. More planning is really, really helpful.
Right.
Just a couple quick housekeeping items. If you have questions, just put them in the chat, the comment section of whatever platform you're on, LinkedIn, Facebook, or the Twitter. They will pop up into our site, so we will be able to see them, and we'll try to either answer them at the appropriate time in the presentation, or if it's very specific to your situation, we can reach out to you afterwards. Okay, so I'm Diane Young. I'm the Managing Director of Arrowroot Family Office here in Rochester Hills, Michigan.
And I'm Daniel Casey, Vice President of the Arrowroot Family Offices here in Rochester Hills, Michigan.
We have 3 offices across the country. The one here in Michigan, we have one in Marina Del Rey, California, and one in Charlottesville, Virginia. So today we're going to cover where are you today, where are you going, your social needs, and how to put it all together and how to build a support team. So first we're going to start with where are you now? Dan?
Right. So what we want to really lock in here is taking a look at how we can get you to the end of the road is very dependent on where we begin. So we need to understand where you're at, and the way to start doing that is by getting organized. So first, we want to take a look at your net worth statement. Very important that we take inventory of all assets and all liabilities. And when you deduct liabilities from an asset, you get your net worth. From there, we can use our tracking expected net worth calculation to see if you're on track based on your income and lifestyle. So we look at age divided by 10 times your annual income creates your expected net worth. Now, for those who are, appropriately for this audience, 5 years from retirement, this will give you a great number. For any attending that maybe are under the age of 35 and a bit younger, this can be a bit of a lagging indicator depending on where you are in your career. So, for example, Jane makes $100,000 and is 55 years old, so that gives her a factor of 5.5. Multiplied by that annual income, we expect her net worth to be $550,000. Now, as you are aggregating all of these assets and liabilities, we want to take a look at everything under the hood, right? So everything from the the home, the cars you own, any excess real estate, bank accounts, CDs, retirement accounts, mortgages, credit cards, home equity lines, and any loans, even if they're student loans and you're not sure what to do with them.
Well, only the ones that you're responsible for paying for.
Yes. The ones you're primarily responsible for is a key point.
So what's interesting, can we back up just a second, Dan?
Oh yeah, let's jump on.
I'm going to share with you, this is a resource for everyone here, but we'll show it on the screen here, is a calculator for you that you'll, as being a participant, you'll get access to. So it is an Excel spreadsheet. I'll look away here. So we have different tabs here for you. So the first tab is a net worth statement. So you can plug in and build out your own net worth statement. So all the things that Dan just said. And then it will help you calculate at the bottom what your expected net worth is. So if you're on track or not. And then Dan's going to go into cash flow, and then we'll talk about the quick retirement plan in a second. So I'm going to stop sharing and let you continue.
Yeah.
Sorry, it won't let me. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So when we're looking at cash flow, right, this is one of the key pieces for successful retirement. Understanding what you have in expenses and liability payments and anticipating your taxes, that's going to help us, plan out a roadmap for you to make sure that we can get you from point A to point B. Retirement can be quite a long experience, and we want you to have a plan to make sure you get through it comfortably and enjoy the time you've worked really hard for. So
well, what I have to say, Dan, is that your retirement is a 20 to 30 year vacation, and most people don't spend nearly as much time planning for this as they do their own vacation. It's kind of strange.
Yeah. A lot of times they don't plan, they don't plan their retirement at all. And then it comes in that, it's not the vacation they thought it would be, right? Planning does help get you, kind of what you desire. So looking at, your basic living expenses, all right, here's the things that, just some examples of what you need to take into account. And then liability payments, making sure those are manageable. And then, like I said, anticipating any tax bills that may be coming due for you.
No, wait, I want to just go back 1 second. So one of the things that I find, and just so the participants know, Dan calls me Yoda here at the office because I've been doing this so long, is that for some people, this is a really hard task to do. So if you find that overwhelming, the simple way to do this is to go, well, how much money are you taking home now in your paycheck? And is there money left over that you're saving? And if, let's say there isn't, let's say you bring home $5,000 a month and $5,000 goes out the door, well, guess what? That's your cash flow. And then the question would be, what's going to change in retirement? And a lot of people, I'll say, how much do you need to live on? They'll say, oh, $2,000. And then it's like, well, you forgot food. You forgot, that you might want to go on a trip or grandkids and stuff. So you really have to think it through.
Absolutely. Figure out what's essential spending and what is your have fun budget, right? These are all things to weigh.
So I'll go through some of these, Dan, since this is kind of personal to me. So, so I was talking about like the seepage, right? You have to, it's really, you have some, if you're a couple years away from retirement, you have some runway here to take a look at what you're doing, and question all your expenses. Look at like your insurance, your car insurance, home insurance, your credit cards. I recently did this. So this example is actually me. So, I went through my credit card statements. Normally they just get paid automatically, so I don't really pay attention. But I found a bunch of magazines that I subscribed to online that I wasn't even reading, the Master Class, the Disney Plus, all those kind of things. And when you add it up, it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year. And, marketers are really good at taking money from us. So we have to really be proactive about it, and then use that extra money that you find and save it or put it in your retirement accounts. So it's the little everyday decisions you make that add up to big stuff. So anyway.
Absolutely.
Oh, so just to recap some of the preparation, we talked about canceling, the credit cards and that's really important. Take those savings and funnel them to something else. I usually suggest for people in the pre-retirement phase, like before they retire, try to get some of your big projects done around the house while you still have that extra income coming in. Another trick is to secure your home equity line of credit. Maybe you've already paid off your house, but I like to have clients have a home equity line of credit for emergencies, for the roof, for water heater. That way you don't have to tap into your investment accounts at the wrong time, because it seems like invariably Murphy's Law, the roof's going to leak right when the stock market is taking a dip. And we wouldn't want you to have to sell something at the wrong time. So those home equity lines can be a nice cushion. Also check your credit score. It's a good time to get your annual credit score. Take a look. Are there accounts you don't need? If you don't think you're going to need your credit cards, you might want to put a credit freeze. One of the things, and none of us like to admit it, but as we get older, we do get cognitive decline. It is natural, it happens, and then there's more serious forms. But we do see a lot of fraud around credit cards, and putting a freeze on it will help prevent that happening for you.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I just want to touch on here is with, securing the HELOC and everything. Another piece here is make sure you secure a strong emergency fund, right? And we talk about this in some of our budgeting seminars, but, having, especially in retirement when there's, potentially not a salary included, right? You're paying yourself and drawing out of your own retirement, creating a security blanket of 3 to 12 months of living expenses, that's safe and secure, but able to be drawn on should the roof cave in and you need a little bit more than the HELOC can offer, or vice versa. Can be an awesome prep tip. So Diane, I was hoping you could touch on healthcare and retirement, because I know that is probably top of mind for most folks making the transition.
Yeah, it can be very hard, especially if you retire early before 65. So Medicare kicks in at age 65. If you are in before age 65, a few months before, you should contact Medicare and get that application process. You will generally need a supplement to that because Medicare only covers about 80%. So generally you're going to want some kind of supplement, whether it's through Humana or ARP or something like that. If you're going to retire early, you need to budget between $12,000 and $24,000, depending on how many people are in your household, for that cost prior to going on Medicare. And healthcare.gov, as bad a rap as the Affordable Care Act gets, it's actually not a bad site now. They've worked out their ones, and you can get affordable care pretty much, but you will pay for it. So it's really important to plan for that. Once people are on Medicare, it's amazing how few people complain about it. So it must work pretty well. Another tip is to maximize your health savings accounts if you have access to one while you're working. And a lot of people don't know this, but you don't have to, and I can use myself as an, I just got hearing aids, and but I didn't pay for them through my HSA. I put them on my charge card because I want the points, and I saved that receipt. And I can reimburse myself at a later date. I don't have to use that HSA card. I can wait until I'm, 65 and I want some extra money. I just pull out that receipt and I can reimburse myself, 5 years, 10 years later for that bill. So it's a great way to store up some extra money that's tax-free and then use it as a tax-free bucket in retirement.
Fantastic.
So Dan's going to talk about or do you want me to talk about this, Dan?
Well, I can discuss, taking a look at debt payments to
This is
income.
another important ratio that everyone should think about. We talked about expected
Right.
net worth, and now we've got this debt to income.
Yeah. So essentially, having excess, debt payments to income, not just debt to income ratio, but debt payments to income, can really, really affect your cash flow in retirement. So we would love for everyone involved to pay off their mortgage and their car loans and their credit cards and zoom into retirement, unscathed by interest and payment strategies and all that, but it's not always realistic. So by age 65, what the target is 10 to 15% debt to income ratio. So if you have, like it says here, if you are paying $2,000 a month, you multiply out 12 months, you're paying $24,000 a year. Out of your $100,000 income, you have a 24% debt to income ratio. So we want a debt payment to income ratio, and we want to make sure that we drill that down to 10 to 15% for retirement.
One of the questions I often get asked is, should I pay my mortgage off? And the answer is like a lawyer, and I usually say it depends. So if your plan was to sell your house at age 65 and move somewhere else, like somewhere warmer than it is here in Michigan this time of year, I might tell someone not to pay off their mortgage at that point, because why put all your money? Because it's very difficult to take a bucket of dirt to the grocery store. So, it's not a hard and fast rule, but you do want the debt payments to be manageable based on your income. And one of the biggest mistakes I see that retirees make is staying in a big empty house full of crap way longer than they need to. So getting your house organized, and I've unfortunately had 3 very close family members pass away in the last 12 months or so, and I've handled all their estates. So I know, get rid of your junk now and downsize and streamline your life.
Yeah, a downsizing.
No, thank you.
The downsizing piece is a big focus area for a lot of retirees, and it's one that can aid in this clearing of a mortgage. Making sure your cash flow is strong. So take a look at all of these options, and don't hoard all your stuff. Leave it to good people like Diane to clean up.
No.
So just to recap, go ahead and build out your net worth statement. See if your expected net worth is on track, right? Calculate your debt to income ratio, see how that is as far as your pacing, and then take a look at your spending and just assess. Do you need to make any changes? Do you need to stop that, magazine subscription that you've had since 1998? Maybe, you don't read that anymore, so just take a look at what's popping up and give it an assessment. All right.
So the next question is, how do we get there? And so now we know where you're at. And again, you'll have the spreadsheet that will, the Excel spreadsheet that will help you build out your net worth statement, your cash flow, and it also has like a little mini retirement plan in there for you. So now we want to get you there.
That's right.
So we're going to talk next about income and retirement. Everyone, I'm sure, has heard about Social Security. What's interesting to me, a study just came out that broke down the age groups, like the generations, and what age they thought people would get Social Security, and none of them got it right. No one knew that age 62 was the first year you could start to take Social Security, and that is a reduced amount. Age, 65 to 67 is full retirement age, depending on what year you were born. So it's really important for people to go to Social Security, ssa.gov. If you've never been on it, you will create a login. They have security questions that you have to answer. So you're going to have to remember that you used to own a 2008 Dodge Caravan. But you want to look at it, look at the estimates, and also look for mistakes. You only have a couple years to fix a mistake. Most of the time you won't find them, but sometimes if you work for a small business or whatever, maybe they weren't reporting your Social Security to the administration. So you only have a couple years to fix that. Get your pension quotes. If you worked for a company or a union that you had a pension, people say, oh, it's only a couple $100. I'm like, Eric, there's no such thing as a small pension. Even $50 a month, it's money in your pocket. If you were divorced, you should make sure that you check your divorce papers to see if you were entitled to any benefit. And it's really important for you to update those companies. You've moved 10 times since you worked for GM. You need to let them know where you're at so they can find you to send you a check. And widowed people should also check on spouses to see spouses' old company pensions. You might be eligible for a benefit. And on your spreadsheet, we have a income sheet for you. Let's see if I can share that real quick for you.
Sure.
I've got these massive screens, so sometimes my mouse gets lost here. There we go. I don't know if anyone can see that, but we have a spot for you to put in like what you think your Social Security was going to be, pensions, and then other income. So you might have other income sources in retirement. Let's see. So fill out your sheet. The next thing I wanted to show someone what a Social Security statement looks like. This is a real one. It'll have your history of all your income for the last, since you started working. So this person probably had a part-time job back in high school or what have you. It will have the numbers in there. I know when I looked at mine, I was shocked at how little money I was making back when I first got married in my early 20s. I was like, I don't know how we survived, but somehow we survived. And this is your Social Security benefit is based on your top 35 years of earnings. And you can throw out, little ones. So let's say for a lot of women, we have years where we were maybe raising children, not working or working part-time. So any year that's like a zero in the middle here, I might be able to work an extra year and throw that one out, which would boost my benefit. The other nice thing that a lot of people don't know about Social Security is that these early years, like in the 80s here in the 70s, get inflated to today's dollars when they're calculating your benefit. So let's say you made a lot in 1980 dollars, but in today's dollars, it wasn't that much. It will actually equal out. So it's a pretty cool system, and it's a really good, solid base for people's retirement. It's a bad rap. Again, here's a blow up of the income worksheet. So in this case, person's gonna make about $4,500 a month, but based on their cash flow, they need $5,500. So they're $1,000 short. Then we go, now comes the how are we gonna do this, right? Well, let's say they have $300,000 sitting, in their investments. If we assume that they're gonna make 4%, well, they might be able to make that happen. If they don't, they're going to have to make some other arrangements here. And on the spreadsheet that you have, there will be an opportunity for that calculation will be built in there for you. So everyone's favorite topic, taxes, taxes. So a lot of people don't know that not all Social Security is taxable. If you earn under approximately $32,000 in other income, your Social Security won't be taxable. The worst case scenario, if you're making a lot of money, is only 85% of your Social Security will be taxable. IRAs and money coming out of your retirement plans are completely taxable as ordinary income, but money coming out of your Roth IRAs is not taxable, or your HSAs. And then capital gains are taxed at a lower rate than ordinary income tax. So in retirement, tax planning becomes really, really critical.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If anyone has any questions on taxes, feel free to put them in the message thing and I'll be happy to address them. So now we're going to move on to some more fun stuff, investing.
Yeah, let's dive into the investment pieces. Social Security we could probably talk about for the next 6 days, but we'll in summation, Social Security and taxes is always top of mind. We always recommend speaking with a financial planner on those to make sure that your plan is aligned in the right way.
Yeah, before we go on, I should have talked about working with Social Security and stuff like that. So it is extremely complicated, and since there's so much misinformation about it, we're happy to work one-on-one with people when it comes to Social Security planning.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're right, Diane, it could be a great benefit. I mean, I don't know many jobs that are given 5 to 8% raises every year, every time you delay taking them. So, but here, what we're going to jump into is just the basics of investments. So this is near and dear to my heart is, portfolio management, making sure people understand, okay, what is your money actually going towards? So let's start, with what is a stock. Right? A stock is ownership in a company, right? If I have a pen company here, the best pens on the East Coast or whatever it might be, Now, I have a vote on the board of directors. I own a part of the company. I get to participate in profit through dividends and capital appreciation in the stock market. It can also go the other way if my pen company isn't doing so well, right? So that's ownership when you own a stock. Now, bonds are where you become the bank and you give a company a loan for an agreed upon interest rate over a selected period of time. So it's not just companies. You can lend to the government, schools, or any municipalities. And there is valuations in bonds. So if interest rates climb, the value of your bonds may fall. If they decline, the value of your bonds may increase. So cash, and so that's bonds. So you become the bank, you loan out the money, you get an interest rate back plus what you put into it. Cash is a riskless assessment or an asset, but the tricky part is, and it's very timely now, inflation. All right, cash sitting in your bank account looks great, right? It's a great number, but
never goes down.
never goes down unless you spend it, right? So you think, oh, that's safe, that's secure, that's what I want. Not all the time, right? And if you're getting 0.1% in your savings account at the bank, and inflation is reported at 6.2%, you have a negative 6.1% return for that year. Right? The value of your dollar doesn't go as far. A gallon of milk, is up $2. That changes your whole budget that we were talking about before. So a great way to offset, inflation is by investing your savings that are excess of what your emergency fund or what your immediate money would need to be, right? Now, there's hard assets as well, real estate, gold, silver, collectibles, and so on. Those are fantastic things to diversify a portfolio. And depending on where you fall and the argument for more or less of those, they do play a role in a diversified investment portfolio. So how do we prepare our portfolio for all of these excellent investment options, right? We're going to transition from accumulation to distribution. So this is a big switch for retirees, right? We're no longer in an accumulation phase. We got to prep you to spend some of your money. And we don't want to be spending too much, but we also don't want to spend too little because you can't take it with you when you go. And you don't want to be the richest person in the grave. So when you're transitioning from accumulation to distribution, most advisors don't know how to do that. They are only paid to gather money and not dole it out. But there are certain fantastic ways that you can allocate to make sure that you receive income from how your portfolio is structured. So one of the ways that we like to look at this is we assess your risk tolerance, and we're going to put a link in so everyone can take our risk quiz. Riskalyze has provided for us.
Look it up. I'm getting it right now. Sorry.
And then we'll post it in the comments so you guys can hop in and interactively, kind of take this quiz, and we can understand where you are, right? And it's going to give you basically a speed limit sign. I'll tell you how fast you want to go on your portfolio highway. So a common mistake that's made when preparing your portfolio is getting too conservative, right? So going, like we talked about, going all the way to savings or going too low in the stock allocation or too high in the bond allocation, whatever it might be, these things are going to inhibit returns. So it really is about finding a balance. And one of the things that we talk to people about is dividend income. Dividends are a fantastic way to secure income for yourself throughout the year while not taking on too much risk in the market, as we're not taking on an extreme growth portfolio or anything along those lines, but you're still able to reap the benefits of your investments. So inflation is a problem. Look at the comparison. Diane, can you believe that?
I know. And yeah, and I worked at McDonald's from 1981 to 1983, and a Big Mac was 99 cents.
Amazing. So when we're looking at these portfolios, right, an aggressive, a moderate, a conservative, we're going to assess risk and what the desired portfolio needs to produce for these people, right? So just because, we kind of look at, okay, how there's an old way of looking at this, and how long do you have to retirement, or how much long? All right, so you're 60, so should have 60% bonds. You're 40, so you should have 40% bonds, and the rest should be in stocks. Right? So these things can be very, very variable, and not so fixed. So what we like to do is we like to look at, okay, what was the risk tolerance results for a younger man, working woman in her 40s, and maybe an older gentleman. Doesn't always align with the age ratio that I just outlined, right? So here we have the younger gentleman who wants to take on less and less risk, but he was deemed aggressive by the old kind of equation. Woman, hardworking working woman who wants to go real fast on the highway, but she's assumed to be moderate based on the old allocation. And finally, our conservative gentleman going, a fair speed, but not as conservative as one may think. So on this risk assessment, the S&P 500, which is our general investment or our general market read, that's the most popular, whereas the S&P 500, the top 500 companies in the U.S., what we'll look at is a 74, right? The S&P 500 is 74 miles an hour on the risk. None of these are aligned directly with that, right? So everybody needs to figure out what the best approach is for their risk.
And what's really helpful about doing this, Dan, is that what are we supposed to do with investments, right? We're supposed to buy low and sell high. Yep. And what does everyone actually do?
Buys high, gets really nervous, and then
once the market starts correcting, they all panic and sell.
We better get out. We better get out now. Right.
So there's two things that drive the market, and we're seeing it right now, right? There's the last year it was greed. It was everyone's like, I'm fear of missing out on this great stock market. And now that things are changing a little bit, and we've got geopolitical things going on, everyone's getting fearful. And so I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, oh, and I said, well, you like this company when it was $150 a share last year. What's changed with the company that you don't like it at $130? You would think you love it.
And what do we call that? A discount, folks.
Right. So, bargain shopping. So I think this tool is really good at helping people figure out, like, what is your true risk tolerance and that, which I'm unfortunately not able to get the link. So we'll have to send it to everyone. If they send us their email, we can send it to them tomorrow.
Right. Absolutely. We'll get that out to you guys. So it's an assessment of, okay, how much risk do you want, right? A quantitative approach, assess, what your risk number is based on what's your time horizon, what can you stomach from a gain and loss perspective, right? So do you have too much risk in your portfolio, right? So this it's a little small, but you can see the portfolio they inputted that they have is a 73 miles an hour. That's going pretty steady, pretty close to what the market's doing, but their risk assessment was 23. So are those aligning perfectly? Absolutely not. Is your risk number exactly where you should be? Maybe, but your goals and time horizon may shift that, where you need to find something between 23 and 73, right? So how much risk should you have, right? We'll use all these factors to build an optimized portfolio, and it'll fit your risk tolerance and goals. And then what we can do is stress test your new portfolio and discuss what it will do in good times and in bad.
And this is what I really love about this particular tool that we have, because we can go back in time and look at such as the 2008 to 2009 crisis, right? When the stock market fell 53%. So if you had $500,000 in August 2007, by March 9th of 2009, you only had $250,000. You were not a happy camper. I was in the business then. I've been in the business since 1990. So I've been through a few of these, but this one was particularly bad. And it's important to think like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do through this? How would I feel? In this case, I think in the example here, the portfolio, recommended portfolio wouldn't do as bad. So, but it still would go down, right? I remember telling clients, hey, you're only down 20%. And they're like, want to murder me. But I'm like, but the market's down 50, so
Right.
half of, underperforming by half in a down market still doesn't feel very good. But it's a really good tool, but on the flip side, if you get too conservative, you're going to miss out on a lot. And you're going to, unless you know something we don't know, you're probably going to live 20 or 30 years in retirement. So outpacing inflation is your real challenge.
Yeah, I would say that that's top of mind for most now. And being able to have this range where, in a 6-month period, the fluctuations are normal, that I think that can give a lot of folks peace of mind. So here, what we can do is chart out, a path to retirement, right? Visualize, okay, here's how your portfolio can range and we can still get you across the finish line comfortably so you're able to do all of the things that you want to do, right? I had mentioned a dividend income portfolio, right? How do we take withdrawals earlier? Dividend income is on top of, right, what your principal is. So you could take, say you have $1 million invested and you've got a 3% dividend portfolio, right? Now you're able to pull 30,000 on average, 30,000 a year without touching your $1 million, right? That just stays, just paid out in dividends and income to you in cash. So this is where you can become, you're the CEO of your household. Your advisor is your CFO, and you work together to structure, make sure you get your paychecks every month. Now, one of the big things that I commonly run into in the self-managed investments or even the 401k managed investments is people structuring their portfolio so that they feel that they're diversified. We all hear that word, diversification. You have to be diversified. Well, I've had it where a client may come in, or a prospective client in this case, and they'd say, Dan, I'm already diversified. I don't need any help with that. I own 35 different mutual funds. 35 different ones. They're all top rated on Yahoo Finance. I've researched every one. Every article I've read has been good on these, and they've performed really well. Some even outperforming the market. Wow, very impressive. Well, that same person we ran a stock overlap report on. So this is just an example, but I simplified it down to 4, but this person had 35. As we can see here, this tells us what stocks they own within those mutual funds. We have 4 options, and it looks like, to me, they all own all the same stuff. Now, the example I just gave was 28 out of 35, so it wasn't 4 for 4 like this, but still a pretty high overlap percentage in my view. So this is not giving you exposure to smaller companies that are doing really well, that are recovering, through the pandemic. This isn't giving you exposure, maybe internationally in the way you should be, not producing the dividend income that you need, right? So there's a lot more to diversification than just owning funds that are named differently or from different companies. A very important thing to do is look at, okay, what do these mutual funds actually hold within them, and exchange traded funds as well, right? So Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, all in the same 4.
So they could have gotten the same diversification with just one holding, or they could have just bought a cheap SPY fund and had the same holdings.
Yeah.
We see this time and time again where people have a whole bunch of stuff, or they have one account here, they have their 401k there, all this kind of stuff. So it's really, really important to kind of look under the hood of everything, because if you have one stock, it's generally going to have a much higher rating than if you're balanced out. So we generally don't like to have clients have more than 2% exposure to any one stock.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what? In that same breath, if you just want to own, if you like this because, hey, I like Microsoft, I like Apple, I think they're great stocks. Well, guess what? You pay an expense ratio for, say this was your portfolio. You pay an expense ratio to these fund companies to manage these funds. If you like Microsoft that much, well, work with your portfolio manager, your financial planner, and just buy the $2,000 in Microsoft and don't pay anybody to manage it. You know, it's as simple as that sometimes. You know, you can cut the middleman out and own it direct if you like it that much. So here's what we're looking at. Total return, capital appreciation plus dividends over a time period, right? That makes your total return. Dividends, which we chatted about a little bit here. This is the return of profits to your shareholders, right? And then we're looking at capital appreciation. Where is the price of the stock and company growing? Realized versus unrealized. Realized being, hey, I made a profit in this, I sold out of it, and I realized that gain in growth. I took that home, right? Unrealized meaning, hey, that had a bunch of growth, but it's still sitting in my IRA or my taxable account, and I'm not going to touch it yet, right? So
realized means you sold the investment. Unrealized means you had the growth and haven't taken it off the table yet.
Absolutely, right. So the last piece, reinvesting versus taking dividends in cash. And this is something that Diane and I have chatted a bit about in the last year or two, and it's come up a bit. So dividends, when they are offered by a company, right, a return of profits, they'll offer you, hey, we can pay this to you in cash, or you can reinvest this into whatever the investment holding is and continue to allow it to grow. Now, reinvesting, when you do that, that dividend that is added to the basis of your buy-in for that fund. So it doesn't always show on the growth side, but it is added to the cost basis. So the amount you've put in to that fund without that capital appreciation, without that growth. And then, you know, taking dividends in cash, if you are going to be transitioning to retirement, this is a key piece to your transition, making sure those dividends are paid in cash to help you cover bills and take your income if it's necessary from your portfolio. Does that sound about right, Diane?
Yeah, and typically when we're looking at investing in stocks now, there's two different kinds, right? There are value companies. Those are companies that are big, growing, you know, they're profitable, and at the end of the day, they're like, what do we do with our money? So they either pay it out in the form of a dividend, or they go and try to grow their company some way. So some companies like Google and Facebook, they're taking their profits and buying other companies to grow. A Procter and Gamble, which makes Tide and Cold or Crest toothpaste and things like that, you know, there's only so much toothpaste and Tide you can buy out there. So they return a nice dividend to their owners. So there's two different strategies. They tend to perform in opposite directions. For the last few years, we were in a definite growth market. Now we're kind of turning into a value. But we like to have them both in our clients' portfolios.
Right. Absolutely. So one other piece to pay attention to in your portfolio, and if you have a 401k or something you invest in now, this will apply to you even before making the transition to retirement. This will apply to you for any mutual fund or ETF, exchange traded fund that you're invested in, is your expense ratio. Now, I mentioned this just briefly earlier when we were looking at the stock overlap, but an expense ratio is what you pay a mutual fund company to manage and put that fund together for you, right? So they can range from, oh gosh, I've seen as low as 0.03% all the way up to 2.5% to manage a mutual fund. Now, it depends on the goal, it depends on the performance of the fund to see if that is worth it. But looking at your expense ratio, that's outside of an advisor's fee. That's outside of, you know, trading costs or anything like that. That is something you pay just to own it, and it goes to the mutual fund, to their research and their managers to make the changes of those underlying holdings. So pay attention to your expense ratio. If it looks high, you know, over Diane, what would you say a good?
Well, the industry average is actually over 1%. which
Right.
I still find shocking. And our industry has been very transformative the last 20 years where, there's discount brokers and all sorts of, robo advisors and things like that. We fully expected a lot of these costs to come down, and they have on some end, but the average person isn't really participating in that.
Right.
So we like to bring our clients institutional pricing so that, the funds don't have to work as hard if they don't have these big benchmarks that they have to hurdle over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And a great way, if you feel like, oh man, I'm paying a lot in expense ratios and I didn't know, exchange traded funds versus mutual funds, right? Exchange traded funds are lower cost because they typically track indexes or specific styles of company in a broad general sense, as opposed to mutual funds where you pay a manager and you pay for that expertise.
Right. There's times when I think paying a manager works out, and then there's other times where, especially like in your initial example where they own the same stocks all the way down. It's like, why are we paying you to do this? We can do it with a 0.04% ETF.
Right, exactly. So
Um,
Diane, help me out here. Let's talk about taking money out of the accounts.
Yeah, so now that's the tricky part, right? So once we've gotten, an idea of where your streams of income are going to be, we have to figure out what that shortfall is and then set up the streams of income to come in. So generally what we do for our clients is we'll pre-set up, 6 to 12 months of income for them that's safe and sound. So no matter what the stock market is, they can sleep soundly at night. So after you've had your portfolio analyzed, figure out your risk tolerance, then we have to figure out how much to take out. And then you can do those testing to see, like, is this going to last enough? Now, one thing we didn't talk about with cash flow and expenses is that I find that there's 3 phases to retirement. There's the go-go years, there's the slow-go years, and then there's the no-go years. So the go-go years is, hey, I'm in my early 60s, I can still walk, yay. And you're running across Europe, which I'm going to Spain at the end of next week. So I'm trying to get all my travel out while I can still walk. So those are my go-go years. So when I'm doing my budget and my planning with my planner, I might actually plan to spend more money those first 10 years or so. Then I find that clients start to slow down in their 70s. They're like, oh, do I have to go to the airport again? So they're not taking as many trips. Health, unfortunately can impact on that. And then there's the no-go years where, if you live long enough, you're just like, I've seen it all. I don't want to see it anymore. And you're just not interested in traveling. Now, it's not true to everyone, and I'll talk about an example of that in a minute. But it's really important to work these cash flows out. Another big mistake we see with a lot of our clients, of course, we're dealing with more affluent people, is people not spending enough money. I'm like Dan said earlier, you don't want to be what did you say, the richest person in the graveyard?
Yeah, the richest person in the grave.
Yeah, that's no fun either. No bueno. So it's this fine line about, having enough to get yourself to the end of the road and enjoying yourself at the same time. So that's where I think we're the value add, working with advisors in that.
Right, absolutely. And if you're playing catch up.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, not every, some people just, either through fault of their own or through no fault of their own are playing catch up. And there's a few things you can do. Working 1 or 2 years longer can make a huge difference. I'll show you an example of that. Working part-time, just even we have a client that just recently retired and actually helped her get her new job because I'm great at networking. And, she's just working 12 hours, but it's enough just to give her what she needs, a plus, keep her out of trouble. If you're still got some years left, you can try maxing out your retirement years, those last few years, can really make a huge difference in your planning. Consider, this is for the Social Security and pension plans. A year or 2 waiting on that Social Security can make a huge difference. Of course, if your health is really bad, you might not be able to do that. But don't just start taking a check at age 62 because you can. Of course, trimming expenses, and then get creative. I had a client who had a huge house, retired, got divorced, and but she was kind of lonely. And then I suggested she rent out one of her rooms because she actually had like a suite. And she did to someone from her church and just did it for 2 years. And it was enough to bridge her to her next phase. And he would take out the garbage in addition to paying rent. So it worked out really great. You might be a consultant. Maybe you hate your job. I know I can feel the hate coming from the internet here of people who are just miserable at their jobs, but maybe you still have something to give to it. You can retire, leave, and maybe be a consultant, or the gig economy. We've had clients working. I've got clients who are doing, Shift, doing Shift, just when they love to shop, so they're turned that into money making. I've got people driving test cars for fun, making money. So, just all sorts of weird little things that you can do to keep yourself busy and still leave that crappy job that you want to get out of.
Absolutely.
So what I did here is I did an example, Dan, of someone, he's like 1 year away from retiring, and he's built up a decent net worth. But when we look at like his income, he's making 100,000. His Social Security, if he retires next year, is 26,000, and he gets a pension of just $1,000 a month. When we ran it through our simulations and we did what's called Monte Carlo testing to see like what are his probability of success, this is not the kind of chart we like to show our clients, one that just plunges into the horizon. This is not a successful retirement.
Yeah.
So, but then we said, what if you work just one more year, just 12 more measly months at this horrendous job? He delays Social Security 1 year and he delays his pension 1 year. And look, he went from 14% success rate to 99%. So it's not like he had to work another 20 years at the crappy job. He just had to eke out 12 more months.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Let's jump in and do a little taxation in retirement.
It's everyone's favorite topic, I thought.
Well, one of the things that is important to touch on, and you'll notice it here, is when you transition into retirement and you're not pulling down your huge salary, is you're going to have some lower income tax years. And there's some great ways to take advantage of that.
Well, one reason you're going to, because Social Security is not taxable, or it's not all taxable.
Right.
So a lot of people are really shocked to find out that they're in almost a less than 5% tax bracket. So what will happen is, in this example here, and this is actually a real example of someone that we're working with, is because they're not earning a salary and they're just taking their Social Security, and because we're taking out money in a very tax advantage way out of other accounts, they're in almost a 0% tax bracket. And what that presents us from a planning opportunity, and I know this is really hard to see unless this is completely zoomed up, and I can't, there we go, I can see it a little better now, is everyone gets a standard deduction, right? If you're a married couple over the age of 65, this year, it's $28,000 and some change. His income is only going to be, his taxable income is only going to be $25,000. He is leaving a few $1,000s of taxes that he could use. So in this case, every year we recommend that he do what do we recommend, Dan?
A Roth conversion.
Roth conversion.
They work excellently. I've had clients take advantage of this, and one of the craziest things is when sometimes you can do a Roth conversion and still get a refund. They can still leave enough of a gap that you get a little check, but you also converted this money over and that's now growing tax-free. So you find that below line deduction and you see how off of it you are, and you say, we've had people convert $25,000. We've had people convert more. It's all dependent on the situation, but some great opportunities, especially to convert it to a Roth, which grows tax-free, and then you have a runway of 20 to 30 years where, that's great accrual time, right? Your Roth.
Well, not only that, it also lowers your IRA, which then comes down to your requirement of distributions, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Right. So why don't we jump over to that, because there's some great opportunities in doing this before your RMD is coming due, your required minimum distribution, where you have to pay those taxes and they're going to mandate it, right? So you can take care of that at a lower rate.
So, learning how taxes work is really important. Keep in mind, again, Social Security is taxed differently. Capital gains are taxed differently. than ordinary income and that. So it's really behooves you to spend a little time on this. We already talked about the Roth conversions. And then the next thing that a lot of retirees are shocked to learn about is a Medicare Premium Tax. I'll talk about that in a second in conjunction with how to donate. I think it's the next slide.
Yeah. And then,
So the Medicare Premium Tax. So
yeah.
this was done in 2015 as a way, kind of corresponded directly with the peak of the baby boomers turning 70. So in 2015, you had to start taking your required minimum distribution at age 70 and a half. April following year, you turned 70 and a half. If you were a single person earning, now it's $91,000 a year, you will have to pay an additional, on top of your regular Medicare premium, another $170 a month. And your Part B and your Part D will go up. So it's quite a big jump, and it's $1 over $91,000. It's not a graded tax, it's $1. If you're a married couple, it's $182,000. But these, people hit these things, and if you're making a lot of money, it can be really, really a huge, huge shock on their Medicare.
Right.
So a couple things to keep in mind is to do, and I think we've included it, our Stealth Rompton, our chief marketing officers in the background. You just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Did we include the 70 in Tax Smart article?
I think we can add that right here.
Oh, there we go. So I wrote an article a couple years ago. I just updated it for our workshop on how to try to keep your Medicare premiums down if you're over the age of 70. Now, I should mention that age 72 is the new age for taking out your required minimum distribution.
That's right. The 72 is the new 70. So.
Yeah. But what's interesting to me is how mad people get about having to take money out. They're like, why do I have to do this? And the reason is that when you put this money away, you were given a tax deduction. You didn't have to pay tax on it. And you did it because you told the government, I'm going to use this for retirement. And now they're like, you're 72. You're retired. We need our taxes. And the government definitely needs taxes. So they're doing this. However, there's a new thing that just started this year, that they've changed the mortality tables on the required minimum distribution to be more favorable because people were living so much longer. So it's actually a little bit lower this year. So there's some good stuff going on here. But one of the things that we like to recommend to people is if you are doing any kind of charitable giving over the age of 70 and you are not itemizing your tax return, you should be giving it out of your IRA, not out of your bank account. Right. Because it will be less tax impactful for you. And I've had a lot of clients that I had to beat over the head for 2 years before they finally understood what I meant. And we got them doing. Now, the trick is that money has to go directly from your IRA to the charity. It's called the qualified charitable distribution. So you can't refund it into your own paycheck. If it touches your hands, you've lost your ability to do this.
And one of the best ways I've been able to kind of get this across to clients and explain it is simply asking them, well, would you rather the government allocates your tax dollars, or would you rather allocate it to something that's near and dear to your heart or your community?
That's right. So
it's got to go either way. It's got to go out. So you get to choose.
So just to recap on required minimum distributions, they're based on the value of your account the year before. So anyone that turns age 72 this year, it would be their 1231 statement from last year. You have to take up all your 401ks, all your IRAs, all your retirement plans and add them up. And then it's divided by a factor. That factor will change every year as you get closer and closer to being super old. It'll get, you'll be taking more and more money out. But it does go up to 120, so it's prepared for anyone here who's Methuselah. It's going to live forever. So planning for it is really important. If you don't do it, there's a 50% penalty on the amount that you didn't take out. So it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those things that it's good to have a financial planner to talk to about that.
We think so.
All right, Diane. So we retired. I feel good. I'm sailing off into the sunset. But what do I do when I'm on my way there? Because it's going to take me.
I know we're not your therapist, but we do see this a lot. This is a photo of my parents, Don and Marie. They both have since passed. My dad just died last year on his 94th birthday. But retirement is one of the most stressful things you can do. It's right up there with a death of someone and, just about everything, divorce. And then I think retirement is number 3. What are you going to do with those other 40 to 60 hours? And I use my parents as an example here because they are the poster child. I know some of the people who are on this call, I know you guys have figured this out, but some of you haven't. What are you going to do with that extra 40 to 60 hours? Alcoholism skyrockets in retirement. Unfortunately, some people just go to the bar or drink by themselves instead of doing things. So I think while you still have a few years before retirement, it's really important to start building up those additional social circles now. While, and you want to have them intergenerational than just like people that are in the same peer group as you. And I think about my parents. So when my mom passed 2 years ago, in the throes of the despair, I'm like, the funeral director's like, how many people do you think will come? And I'm like, I don't know. She's, 86, what, 20, 30? And then my sister's like, well, don't forget the Sons of Norway, the church, the Masonic Temple that did, the Winnebago Club, the Detroit or Michigan Historic Society. There were 120 people at this 80-something-year-old lady's funeral. I was like, oh my gosh, and then when my dad died last year, it was the same thing all over again. These people had friend circles that were just amazing. And I hope to replicate that for myself. And I really recommend that everyone really look at your own circles. I just had lunch with a client the other day, and she's really regretting retiring because she's bored. She's bored and lonely. Right. So we don't want that to happen.
One of the things that, I definitely, nobody wants that to happen to you. And one of the things I've talked to with a few clients about, and hear me out here, you're getting a Social Security, you're getting an income, you're well, to do, taken care of, whatever it might be. Volunteering your time is probably one of the most overlooked pieces of a retirement. You ever think, oh, I'd love to work at the community garden. I'd love to volunteer at the church. My grandmother used to go down to the local community theater and take tickets, and she loved it. There's so many things you can do to volunteer and give back to your community now that you're granted the time.
Yeah, think about all the kids that could use someone reading them a story, and the teacher that could use a break for 15 minutes while you do it.
Yeah, I know my mom's out there saying amen to that right now. It's one of those things where, and we hear this a lot, oh, I'm too old for that. Oh, it's actually, you now are granted the time and the opportunity to do that. So it's all about a frame of mind and how you look at it. But if I were to get a nice Social Security check tomorrow, I know I'd probably go down to the YMCA and teach a swim class or Lord knows what. But, spend my time, interacting with my community that, you've worked hard to earn all that free time and be able to spend it, around other people and give yourself a little bit of life too.
Yeah, I think so.
So when we're looking at, transitioning to retirement, we really want to make sure outside of, planning on what we're going to do with 40 to 60 hours a week, that we have the support staff in place, the team in place to have a successful retirement. Now, a lot of folks will go into retirement and say, oh, I'll figure it all out. Well, it doesn't always align timing wise. So we do recommend, you're at the heart of this, but start with a financial planner. Get an assessment of, where everything lies. Work with your CPA. Have somebody who helps with your insurance, whether that's long-term care, disability, whatever it might be. Your investment advisor to manage your portfolio, who can also double as your financial planner. And then you should have an estate attorney, somebody who helps make sure that your estate is going to transition to your loved ones in the way that you see fit.
So
So let's jump in here.
Yeah. So, Dan just kind of went through each of the persons that not everyone needs every single person, but that's basically the core people of a team, and they come in and out depending on what you're needing. At a family office like ours, we act as a quarterback to a lot of these relationships because all these people speak a language, and it's not always one that we understand. So we often are interpreters for our clients, and also, coordinating everything. Um, a lot of tax professionals don't do planning, and they just like record history. And investment advisors often just want to talk about the investments. They don't care about your tax strategy. So, working with someone that can help coordinate it if you need it. And attorneys draft legal documents. So usually what we like is clients to come to us first. We help them plan out what their strategy is, and then we go to the attorney and say, this is the documents that they need. And then,
Sorry.
how to shop for an advisor. It's really important, I think, that people interview a few advisors. You want some criteria I think is important is, do they listen? Do they have a process that you feel comfortable with? Do you like them? Although I caution people about liking them too much. I mean, you want to like them. I mean, I hope my clients like me, but falling for the personal Bernie Madoffs of the world always worries me. So make sure that they have all the other things in there. In addition to that, you like them and you feel comfortable with them.
Right. You want to insist on, a higher standard of care. A big thing that I've come to find is enjoying their communication style and making sure that when you leave their office, you're understanding what they've taken the time to teach you or try to get across. A lot of people, tell me, oh, whenever I leave my advisor's office, I'm more confused than when I left. That's a red flag to me. You want to make sure that, that person is really articulating to you at the level you agreed upon, that you want to understand what's happening with your plan and your portfolio.
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, we're not the only game in town. There's plenty of great advisors out there, and everyone communicates it a different way. So it's important to find someone that fits really well for you, and then be very clear about how they're compensated. A red flag for me is if they say, don't worry about it. There's no commissions. There's no da-da-da. I will tell you that no one works for the Red Cross in our industry.
Yeah.
You want your advisor to have, a living. You want them to, but at the same time,
Yeah, you can't accept the don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Well,
the free steak dinner. Here's your free steak dinner.
Yeah.
So
great questions. Sorry, Diane, I didn't mean to jump you. So some great questions would be, what are your typical clients like? What the service plan that you'll have? And Diane makes this point all the time. Will they put it in writing, right? Having a service plan that you understand and you agree upon in writing is a crucial piece to hiring a financial planner.
And the reason I put that is because most can't give it to you in writing because their compliance departments will allow them because they know they've been lied to up to this point. So they won't put it in writing. And then the last thing is, do you earn commissions from selling annuities, which is one of my big bees in my bonnets when it comes to how some of these products are sold. People will often be told there is no commissions, there's no anything, don't worry about it, magic happens.
Right.
And, that's just a red flag.
Absolutely. Telling someone that a fixed indexed annuity is the answer to all their worries is not a great financial planning fiduciary model to follow. So on our recap, we just want to figure out where you are now, right? We're looking at the net worth statement, right? Taking a look at your projected cash flow. What is the Social Security and pension situation going to look like? We're going to figure out current cash flow and projected retirement cash flow, how the ins and outs are going to work. From there, we'll look at, determine, are you playing catch up, right? If you feel that that's the case, how can we close the gap, right? There's some things, contribution wise you can do, budget wise, to, make sure that you get across the finish line. And then like Diane mentioned before, working longer. from there, yeah, many people just booed that. No, we don't want to work longer, so let's save more now.
Well, you might want to change lanes. That's what I say. Maybe you've been in that fast lane on I-75, the one with all the, I just drove to Detroit this morning, the one with all the potholes. It's really rough.
They could always take the
get over to the other lane.
Yeah, we can take the scenic route, take the back roads, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then the other piece is taxes, right? We want to really look at anything you should be doing now that can reduce taxes later. We talked about the Roth conversion strategy, analyzing, kind of that gap. How can you fill that? And then if you're using an advisor, make sure start to build your team now, because you only get to retire once in your life. Us as advisors, we get to do it hundreds and thousands of times for our clients, right? That transition is something that we've seen and done a lot, and we can hold your hand across, and then we'll go back and get the next person, walk them across the bridge.
That's our favorite thing. We've retired a lot in the last 5 years too, and I've got one coming up in 2 weeks, and very excited for them. And we get just as excited about it as you guys do, and
yeah,
just really want to help you make it successful and not as stressful as it can be.
Right. The Great Resignation has been an eye-opening experience for not just companies, but also people. And, people like us are here to help.
Yeah. So our firm, I will put a plug in for our firm, is we are a fiduciary-based financial planning firm. And, our goal is to make you as happy as possible in the most ethical way we can. So, we act as your quarterback. We act as your advocate, and we'll fight for you and help you get you over the cross the finish line towards retirement.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Dan. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. Dan is also in his spare brilliant time is a cryptocurrency and blockchain expert, and we'll be having a workshop in April on this. We don't have a date yet, but if you are interested, make sure you reach out to Dan at Arrowroot Family office, and he'll let you know when this is. We hope to have other workshops in the future. If you have ideas that you would like to hear, please let us know, and we'll be happy to consider them for other events. And if you have any questions, make sure that you message us or put it in the message wherever you're at, and we'll get back to you. Just let us know how best to reach you.
Absolutely. So, it's been a wonderful evening with you guys. Thank you for taking the time out of your Tuesday evening. Yes, the cryptocurrency and blockchain presentation will be in April. I'll be covering how that all works, how it's advantageous and how it can be an advantage and a disadvantage to your portfolio, and much more information there. It's a whole rabbit hole if you want to come take a deep dive with me. So looking forward to that. Diane, thank you so much for taking the time to be on tonight. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Ramtin, for our back office support, and to everyone who attended. Thank you, and have a wonderful night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.